Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-hosts, Matty B and Jeff Meyer. Got a lot of football talk on the way today. First off, we're going to get into high tempo. Matt, I saw you guys got a big win, so why don't you kick it off? What do you got for us this week?
Well, this week we rattled off another win. We got our first running clock of the season, and actually, I might be mistaken, but it might even be the first running clock that I've had in my tenure. I don't recall us getting any running clock games last year. Everything kind of came down to the wire. So it was nice to be able to get all of our kids playing time. We were lucky enough to catch some things on film. We were able to exploit and were able to get some big runs in the game, score some touchdowns early, and got everyone a lot of playing time. So it was nice that now we're at 2-1 and definitely have a challenge this week playing the Shannon Valley.
And for people that don't know, can you explain the running clock?
After you are up by over 35 points, it becomes, regardless of whether there's incomplete passes or other things that are happening, the clock just continues to run. So it's kind of like a mercy rule.
So basically, you are bragging about running the score up.
Gotta get that running clock, homie.
That is something that you would make fun of me for and say that I was rude and being an asshole. So I had to just make sure that was on record, that that's what you were doing.
But you're not purposefully trying to do it, but it is nice that when that happens, that you're almost guaranteeing at that point that you have a win, and that you can get everybody playing time. Because there are times where if you don't have that running clock, even if you're up 2 scores or 3 scores, there's a chance that as you start subbing in, and actually it happened last year against the team that we're facing this week, where we were winning, we didn't have a running clock, and we started to try to get some of our younger kids playing time. And because they kept their starters in, they were able to score a touchdown late and cut the lead down to where we had to start making sure that we had guys ready, our starters ready to go in the event that they came back. So it definitely is helpful that once you have that running clock, that the game moves a lot faster and you're able to guarantee that win.
And in all seriousness, it's good to get younger guys some playing time, and even guys maybe that might not have the physical skill set. I know when I played, it was always good to see some of those guys get in the game because they bust their ass at practice. So good to see that. Jeff, what do you got for high tempo this week?
Oh, my high-tempo topic of the week is Pitt versus Penn State. It's going to be the 4th installment of the series. Penn State is currently up 2-1 in the series. The game will be at Happy Valley this weekend. Unfortunately, Pitt is going into the game as a 17-point underdog. I don't think it's going to fare well, but I will say this. After watching the first half of the Buffalo-Penn State game last week, it gives me a little hope. So if Pitt can come out, run the ball, put together some offensive drives, like they might have a chance. But unfortunately, I'd have to say that I'm probably going to take Penn State this weekend. I don't know if they'll cover the 17 points, but I don't see Pitt winning this weekend. I see Penn State winning the series 3-1.
After that game against Buffalo, I saw the line did come down, I believe, or maybe after they posted it initially. I don't know what it was originally, but people are high on Pitt, at least covering.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good sign or not. It's tough to be a Pitt fan.
Yeah. Anytime the line is 3 scores, that's kind of rough. But I don't know. I don't know what to think for this weekend. I'm excited. It should be I shouldn't say it should be a good game. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. I'll say that. So
what you're saying is you have a lot of fun when you go to Happy Valley?
I'm saying I enjoy the atmosphere and Happy Valley.
Will you wear your Saquon Barkley jersey?
Well, I didn't win the league yet, but after my 1-0 start, oh no, I lost in our league. Never mind.
Yeah, you lost. You're at the bottom of the power rankings. What are you talking about?
See, that's the problem. You have multiple leagues. I forgot which one it was.
At least multiple leagues excuse. I'm sure you're undefeated in your other leagues too, huh?
I'm 2-1 right now, so yeah.
That's always the comeback I get. I'm undefeated in my other leagues. You never heard of them.
Yeah. Bisco is what 4-5 in his 9 leagues he's playing right now. But no. In all seriousness, though, I don't think Pitt has a very good shot this weekend. I will enjoy the atmosphere. Happy Valley always has a great football atmosphere. Not as good as the Big House, as we all know, but should be fun this weekend.
All right, well, let's get into the big game. Sunday night, Steelers Patriots. Everyone's real excited. It's a series that Antonio Brown's coming back to, which we'll get to here in a bit. But I'm watching the game, and I'm waiting for something good to happen. I mean, do I even wear the terrible towel? Do I throw it away at this point? Because that game was an embarrassment. Coach, what are your thoughts from a coaching standpoint?
It was horrific. One of the best comments that I saw on it was that you saw a coach that was prepared and one that wasn't. And it just seemed like everything Belichick did, he was prepared for. They were organized. There was sequential things that were going on that as Pittsburgh tried to do something, New England had all the answers. And it just felt like all Pittsburgh wanted to do is they wanted to keep it close. It was like, well, it's week 1. Who cares? It's a long season. And you just kind of have some of that hangover that plagued Pittsburgh in years past, where it's just like that it takes them a while to get their bearings and to get going.
I honestly thought that they would want to prove that they could have a killer offense, and that's why I picked them week 1. I knew usually it's New England that kind of struggles down the early stretch until things start clicking because they have moving sets at receiver, it seems, every year. And Pittsburgh, they were playing what I call James Franklin ball, where you're kicking field goals when you're down 3 scores just because you want to get on the board. And it's like, what are you doing? Why even kick that? It was so.
At that point, that was where I just felt like I almost wanted to shut it off, because at that point you knew they weren't in it to win it; they were in it to not be embarrassed.
Oh yeah, they were just trying to keep it close, and it didn't even help anyway. Well, what was the final score? It was like 33-3. I tried to block it out. It was something crazy like that, where they only scored that field goal. At that point, show that you want it and that you want to win, and take some shots down the field. Do something. They couldn't get anything really going on offense consistently. I know Ben didn't really look accurate, and a lot of people keep going back to the preseason thing. That was what happened on Thursday night game with Mitch Trubisky. He came out and they were giving him flack about saying, hey, you didn't play in the preseason. Maybe that's why you struggled. And it's like, hey, nah, it's not a big deal. Like, what do people think? That if you go into the preseason, like your arm just automatically becomes more accurate? I know that, yeah, you're going to have some reads and stuff like that, but when you're not making accurate throws, that's just more on the quarterback. Maybe he has a bad day. Maybe he's a little bit tight. I honestly don't know. Tom Brady had no issue. Wasn't like Tom Brady's playing 4 preseason games.
Part of this also, though, is the rhythm. Brady was able to complete some short passes earlier and get himself into a good rhythm. Every time Roethlisberger attempted to throw a pass, Dante Moncrief acted like it was his first time playing football. He kept dropping passes. He wasn't around consistently. It looked like they just brought him in off the street to play. And I think that hurts, because when you're trying to establish a rhythm and you're trying to get ahead in the chains, you're dropping passes, and then you're putting yourself in situations where you got to force the ball. So Roethlisberger ended up throwing into situations where they were predictable, that you knew that they were going to have to throw, and then they were able to get the coverage looks to break some of those passes up.
Yeah, it wasn't a good look at all. Jeff, what were your thoughts on the first game?
I have a lot of thoughts on it. The offense was awful. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I think they'll be fine here in the upcoming weeks. Ben will get it together. The offensive line will start picking up. The thing with this game, though, is they came out, had a couple 3-and-outs, off the bat. They never got the run game established. Connor had like 10 carries for 20-some yards or something like that. That might have even been the game total. So they didn't get the running game established. They had so much success last year with Samuels versus the Patriots. Didn't utilize him at all. I did like one of the few notes I did like. They brought in some packages where they had Samuels and Connors involved. I don't know. I think that's a really good idea to get them both on the field like that, but unfortunately, it just never developed. The defense looked awful. We had a dude playing safety that was in the AF Football League this summer. or this spring.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, Sean Davis was down, so I guess the next man up mentality, but there was just a lot of problems. Bud Dupree had a great preseason game a few weeks ago. Back to old Bud Dupree. Didn't do anything in the game. They were double teaming TJ Waterlaw, chipping him, those sort of things. So he had a tough game, but you got to have other people step up. The only bright spot I thought of the game was Bush. Had 11 tackles, led the team with tackles. Other than that, it was pretty rough all around. The one thing I hated, too, was the play selection on offense. That one series, they ran the same formation, same play 3 times in a row. That weird pitch to the left. I mean, that I don't know how you do it in the NFL. That doesn't even work in high school sometimes, running the same 3 plays in a row. So just a lot of bad things all around.
I don't know. The one thing that caught me with the defensive backs where they didn't actually wrap up. I saw a couple times where they would just go in for the hard hit. It's like, what are you doing? Wrap up or try to break the play up. Why let the guy catch it and then try to light him up? There was one, I think it was Edmonds, he got run over completely. It's like, dude, you look like an idiot out there. And you're letting them run for yards after the catch, and it doesn't help us at all. So just play some fundamental football, something the Steelers used to be known for. And now, even on defense, I know you gave Bush a shout out, but there were some times where I saw the same issues that I mentioned on the draft show that I saw at Michigan, where sometimes he would pursue late, and on some of the crossing routes, he has to get better at identifying them. And I know he's only his first year in the league, his first real game. But, man, you can't get behind a slot receiver, and then chase him while he runs for 8 yards after he catches the ball. So I'd like to see a little bit more of recognition on the Steelers' defense, or hell, even mask it and give the guy some help. Like, why man up with, like, Julian Edelman? It just doesn't make any sense from a gaming standpoint. Yeah, is he fast? Yeah. But, like, let's help him out. I don't want to see him make a fool of himself out there. And sure, he can make 11 tackles, but are they downfield? 12 yards? Gotta get those reads faster. So, and I hope he can, because that's something that I know he'd be a great asset that the Steelers need. But defensive secondary gotta make some fundamental plays. Gotta wrap up. Anything else you guys see on the game, Matt?
Just it almost was nauseating to see New England just continue to just grind and chew clock and pick Pittsburgh apart, and you knew that it was going to happen. And it's not like they didn't know that they were playing New England week 1, that they had nothing. There was nothing new. There was no new wrinkles. Overall, I was disappointed that I felt like you had all this time that you could have prepared something, and it just looked like they just picked up right where they left off last year. Like, the season ended, and they went on vacation and said, well, we're just going to do the exact same thing next year.
It does look like that. Any final thoughts for you, Jeff?
Just kind of adding to Matt. Moncrief, 3 drops. 1 was a touchdown. He played awful. That might have been the worst performance I've seen by a professional receiver in a long time. That was very poor. He was more worried about his dog tags than catching the ball. That was one thing I noticed. Like, they were flopping around the whole game, wasn't playing well, cared more about those than actually catching passes. But yeah, it was rough. I think all 3 of us predicted the Steelers, and oh boy, were we wrong. It was a rough week 1 for the Steelers, and hopefully they can pick it up this weekend at home, which is key, against Seattle.
Well, I got some pros and cons. The pro is it's only first week, so they can turn it around. Another pro is they beat the Patriots last year and ended up sitting at home in the playoffs, so it didn't really matter while the Patriots won the Super Bowl. So it's only 1 game, not a big deal. Some cons, Antonio Brown, he signed with the Patriots, so they didn't even have their best receiver.
I wouldn't have known from watching the first half of the game that Antonio Brown signed with New England. How did you find out about it?
Oh, Matt, I don't know. I waited for my Monday newspaper to come in the mail. How anyone gets their news. What is it, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette?
Oh, darn.
No, I will say, so for people that aren't following, and that could actually be a con anyway, Antonio Brown didn't blow up the Patriots locker room yet, or a pro for the Steelers. Wait till Antonio Brown blows up their locker room. and then Steelers might get him in the playoffs. Hopefully Steelers can turn it around. But Antonio Brown gonna play with the Raiders. I think it was about Thursday. He called was it the owner or the general manager, a cracker at practice?
GM.
The GM. So he calls him a cracker, starts swearing at him in front of a bunch of people. Apparently, I guess it was at training camp. And so then they told him, like, hey, don't come. We're going to avoid your $30 million guarantee. So, of course, he panics. And he goes into the what was it, like the locker room? And the news that came out was that it was a tearful apology to his players. And Gruden said, and this is Friday, so Gruden says Antonio Brown is going to play Monday night. Because, of course, if he doesn't play, he doesn't get the million guaranteed. He doesn't get the $30 million. They don't pay you for doing your off-the-field antics in the offseason. That's not how it works. So Antonio Brown knew that, came in, apologized, did all that stuff. Saturday morning, I don't know what exactly happened because that's college football day. I'm not following Antonio Brown to see what the hell he's doing on Saturday. But at some point between the early games and the end of the noon games, Antonio Brown had already posted a video on Instagram saying that he wanted the Raiders to cut him. And the Raiders happily obliged because that means they get out of that $30 million guaranteed. I mean, if the guy wants out, he wants out. So he went on a public thing and basically announced it. So they cut him. And I wonder if it was calculated on his part. Because if you remember, the Raiders, they had to trade the Steelers for him. A lot of people laughed. Remember that? Back in March when I said, hey, that's actually a pretty good return for the Steelers. And a bunch of the talking heads on ESPN were like, Steelers got fleeced. They have to give up Antonio Brown. What the hell did the Raiders get out of that move? They got absolutely nothing. They got a headache and bad publicity.
They got a win is what they got. They got team unity because after they canned them, Raider Nation, stand up, baby.
Well, we can go back to fantasy football talk. I can say that I signed Williams, who looks like he's their number one receiver now, because I knew Antonio Brown is a complete shithead. So why would you not take that guy and then watch as he scores a touchdown and gets all these points for you and just sit back as a fantasy owner? That's the kind of deals you have to look at. Okay, Antonio Brown, am I going to waste a high pick on Antonio Brown? No, because it might not pan out. Now, he might pan out with the Patriots. He might not even play this year. We have no idea. So he gets cut by them, and some people are putting out some rumors. They're leaking it, saying like, "Hey, the Steelers never would have signed him to the Patriots, so maybe he had no intention of ever playing for the Raiders. The Patriots knew that he would sign later and they'd get him at a discount if he caused a lot of locker room trouble." That's some collusion talk, and that's some conspiracy talk. So I don't know, but I mean, as soon as that happened now, because I'm trying to give a timeline. So that talk starts about like, hey, it's kind of fishy that he immediately signs with the Patriots at 4 p.m. the same day he gets cut, which was like the earliest time he could sign, and he still had to sit out week 1. But today, right before we record the show, so we don't have all the details, it came out in, what newspaper was that, Jeff?
New York Times. There was an article posted.
New York Times had an article where a former trainer of Antonio Brown's accused him of sexual assault. So if you want to get that breaking news, because we don't have all the details, and of course this is a podcast, so I'm sure you're going to hear about it by the time you listen to this, unless you're listening live right now. If you're watching it live, wait till we're done, and then go ahead and look that up and get all the details, because the NFL is supposed to be taking accusations like that seriously. And it looked like, from my initial read, was that the trainer said that she had text messages of Antonio Brown bragging about it. So if that's the case, does he play this year? I mean, it looked like, 24 hours ago or 48 hours ago? Well, I don't even know. Sunday night, it looked like, oh my God, the Patriots, they looked great. They're going to get Antonio Brown. They're going to win a Super Bowl. Hell, they could go undefeated. I saw undefeated talk already because they were saying this is the most dynamic since Randy Moss was there when they won undefeated, and Antonio Brown fits the scheme better than Randy Moss did, so maybe they actually finished the job this time Could you imagine an old Tom Brady going undefeated in the NFL? That would be outrageous. But now this news breaks. What happens? I think they even said during the game, because they kept talking about it. Didn't they say that he's living with Tom Brady right now?
It's something crazy like that.
With him.
Wait, what? Oh yeah, they did make that mistake. The guy said Juju Smith-Schuster just moved in with Tom Brady. Then the other guy says, do you mean Antonio Brown? On live TV, like, how do you get that mixed up? One guy's playing, one guy's not. Like, read your show notes. I do remember that, Matt. Now you brought that up. I thought that was hilarious. But I don't know. Antonio Brown, he signs with the Patriots. Could be facing some legal issues. And we will see what happens. Antonio Brown came out and he said that they're false accusations and he will be pressing charges or something like that. So that was his first statement. But then who did we say it was? New York Times said that they reached out to him and they got no response. So that was just his camp to put that out there. So we'll see. Crazy talk. Let's go around the horn, Matt. What do you think of the situation? Do you think he makes an impact?
If he clears all this and he's actually able to, I think he would be able. He is going to contribute. But based off of what the NFL has been doing, with all of his other shenanigans that he's been pulling, if there's even the slightest bit of truth to these, I think New England's going to cut him, especially with dealing with Kraft, dealing with his own sexual whatevers. But they're going to need to try to keep their image clean, and they're going to want to try to distance himself from him, I think.
But you mean sexual whatevers? Didn't he basically pay that off? They were going to release the tape, but I think he settled out of court so that didn't happen.
There you go.
So you mean you knew that was never going to amount to anything? I don't even know how you can settle out of court with the police. Wasn't that a raid? Wasn't that an FBI raid?
Money talk.
It must have needed that money. Jeff, what are your thoughts on this situation?
This whole situation baffles me. How he was such a locker room cancer in Pittsburgh, a media circus. Then this whole summer between was it HBO, everything was going on with the show, him with his feet issues, the helmet issues. Like, there's so many different things with him. It's honestly unbelievable. He then, he does this whole thing with Mike Mayock, the GM. Then he cries, apologizes, and then literally within a day, he's on Twitter celebrating, thanking God and his grandma that he's able to get released. He's a free man. He's getting released. Within an hour, he's a Patriot, and then 2 days later, we don't even know if he's going to play this season. I mean, depending on how this all plays out, I mean, I'm not really sure how the NFL is going to handle this, but something's going to happen. Like one of you two mentioned, especially with Kraft's, situation that happened, was it earlier this year? The Patriots I don't know if they're even going to keep him. So he's going to go from a situation where he had $30 million guaranteed, one of the highest guarantees for any receiver for one season, to $9 million guaranteed to maybe nothing. So in a span of maybe a week, he might have lost $30 million. It's just so bizarre to me. What are you what do you think of that? It's honestly absurd.
So yeah, he had $30 million guaranteed plus his other contract money. That was only the guaranteed thing. And he basically lost they halved it. I think his total contract now is worth $14 million. That's
and 9 guaranteed.
9 guaranteed. So he went from 30 guaranteed to 9. And then he could get the extra 4. That's not even half of what he would have had with the Raiders. So for the people that are throwing out the conspiracy theory, you have to look at it from his perspective. If he was doing all this shenanigans, like you said, the foot thing, I don't know how you could give yourself frostbite though, to see if you can get a team to cut you. That would be, that's some cold calculated things where they're like, hey, how could you sign with the Patriots? How can you sign with us? I got an idea. I'm going to give myself frostbite. They'll surely cut me. and then that didn't work. So he's like, oh, that didn't work, Antonio. What do you got next? He's like, I'll pretend that I'm going to wear this old Steelers helmet. I'll paint a Raiders logo on it and I'll go to practice. And he comes back and he's like, that didn't work either, guys. I don't know what else to do. They're like, call the GM a cracker. He's like, brilliant. That will put everybody over the edge. It happens, and then they finally get rid of him. Because that's exactly that's a timeline. So I'm laughing
so
about
laughable. It's
but
laughable.
To me, the thing that was funniest throughout this whole saga is he was fighting for a new contract, and he wanted to be paid big money. And looking at comparatively, you had quietly down in Atlanta, Julio Jones was threatening to sit out and not being willing to pay, but he wasn't taking it to the media. He was letting his agent handle it, was going through the proper channels. He got his 3-year extension, the highest paid receiver, and there's nothing there. There's no big show media circus to go with it.
Jeez, Matt, get a room. We know you love Julio Jones. I feel like you bring him up every show.
Top gun.
Now, I will say this. The Antonio Brown thing, you talked about the money. It comes down to this. Did he actually want the money? Or do you think he wants the championship? And now, after that, then he could get the money. Because it feels very LeBron James-esque to me, where he went to Cleveland to get the championship. And now he got that. Now he's back to the, okay, doesn't really matter if I win. I'm going to get my money, and I'm going to try to set up a career after football. Where I feel like Antonio Brown tried that with the Steelers. He realized, hey, I don't have a ring. People aren't respecting me. If I end up going to the Patriots, I can win a ring, and then I can go sign with the team and do my helmet shenanigans and get on television, do the Masked Singer again or whatever he wants to do. So I wonder if it's just a calculated thing by him where he said, in the NFL, people respect you if you win the Super Bowl. Where can I go? I might as well go to the guy that wins it almost every other year, Tom Brady. I mean, it makes sense. They signed a 1-year deal, and I think the Patriots extended it to where he had an option for a second year. So they saw good things out of him at practice to the point where, hey, and imagine that. A guy that was having so many headaches with the Raiders and a head coach, John Gruden, that worked in the media, so he knows how to handle the media. He was still having issues. But as soon as he gets to New England, everything's fine.
New England liked what they saw out of Gordon on Sunday because they traded Demaryius Thomas away to the Jets. So they're not going to have him, and now they potentially won't have AB for week 2. So the machine keeps rolling.
Yeah, get rid of guys to make room for AB, and then AB doesn't show up, Matt. It's the perfect self-sabotage. And it's even a bigger conspiracy now because Antonio Brown's going to help the Patriots implode so the Steelers can backdoor into the Super Bowl. And then Rooney will just send Antonio Brown his ring. And so here you go, buddy. Last Steelers news I got. Dobbs, we knew it was coming.
Yeah.
Traded to the Jaguars for a 5th-round pick. I think it was pretty clear. He had his chance. They got rid of Landry Jones. They had him as the pure backup. They were going to give Dobbs a chance. He just didn't play well. And I know the Jaguars have their own quarterback issues, Nick Foles, which I hate to see because I love Foles. And to me, he's the Super Bowl winning quarterback. They always talk about how Wentz is the franchise for the Eagles. Wentz didn't do shit. He hasn't done anything in the playoffs. So to me, letting Nick Foles go was crazy. Now, it works out for them because of the injury. But I hate to see it. I think he would have been a perfect fit in Jacksonville. And we know from the playoffs a couple years ago that Jacksonville is a scary young team. Yeah. So they needed a quarterback like Foles that we know can get the job done. So I hate to see it. They get Dobbs instead. To be honest, though, they brought in the stash, Gardner Minshew. And Minshew he was like, what, 15 for 15 at one point, I think I saw? I could be wrong on the stats, but he was throwing lights out. And I don't know, I couldn't watch the game. So I don't know if maybe they were just throwing like short, okay, let's get your rhythm type routes where it's just like 100% accuracy for 2 yards and then a punt. But dude, Minshew, it looked like he might be okay. Matt, you looked like you were going to say something.
Nope.
Did you watch that game? Because I couldn't get that one. So What game was I stuck with? It was it the Browns? Who'd they play? The Browns and someone else. And then
Titans. Browns, Titans.
Yep, that's the game I had instead. So I couldn't watch Nick Foles. And then my NFC game was the Panthers, of course. And just an all right day of football. Speaking of that Browns game, and speaking of like all the Antonio Brown stuff, I kind of feel bad for OBJ because he got fined for wearing a watch. And I was kind of confused at first because I thought, why the hell would he be wearing a watch? And then I thought, do other players wear stuff like that? And I guess it really wouldn't matter. I don't know what the watch is, but players wear like the bands that have the plays on it, and they wear all kind of other stuff. And I really don't think that it would cause an issue. I mean, if anyone would get hurt by the watch, I feel like it would be him having it get caught in a helmet. Like, I mean, I've bumped into people with watches and never been like, oh my God, took my eye out. But the NFL said that they were going to fine him because it was a hard object. You're not allowed to wear hard objects. But then what about players that wear casts? The clubs they're wearing out there. Like, is it just because it's a fashion item? Because I wondered if they just didn't approve it. Because you remember, what was the deal that we talked about? The visors. Oh, you can't wear visors. No, that's bad because then like you could not be able to see. We don't know if it's going to cause concussions. Oh, wait, someone's going to pay us to put visors? Hell, you can wear visors now. Yeah, guys, check this out. We got this brand new thing. It's visors. We got a new sponsor. You can wear their visor in the helmet. That's what it feels like to me. Because the fact that
there's also a difference between wearing like a cast because of a medical reason and just wearing a stupid watch because you're a moron.
Matt, I'm just thinking. Well, Jeffrey already talked about Moncrief's dog tags.
Yeah, you don't need any of that.
What the hell?
OBJ doesn't need that bling on. Like, play football.
No, Jeff, he can wear it if he wants. Is what I'm saying. I'm on his side.
I'm on the opposite side. I'm saying you don't need your black. I think it was a black and orange. Yeah,
it looked cool.
I don't know what the brand was, but it looked cool. But guess what? You don't need it to play football.
It was a brand I didn't know because the NFL specifically said in their statement that he was not. What did they say? He was not it wasn't affiliate. It was something like that. He's not an associate of them. It was a purchase that he made. He's like a customer. And not like it. He's not advertising for them. I'm like, okay, great. I didn't know that. Never heard of this company until you guys put it in the press release about why you're going to fine them.
Yeah,
like, just let it
free
go.
Advertisement. Yeah.
I wouldn't know what that watch was. I mean, I guess if he's like taking a bunch of pictures with it, but then I mean, it's kind of like free publicity for him. How do we know he doesn't know someone there? Just crazy. I say let him wear it.
But you know what? I think he hit the nail on the head though, because he said, if it was a $20 watch, it wouldn't be no problem. So.
Yeah, he did say that. And he said if it wasn't the watch, it'd be something else either. Like his shoes might be on wrong. And then I look at all the other things that people wear. Like, oh, we're going to put stickers on our helmet for this or that. We're going to do all this other stuff. If a guy wants to wear a watch, it's dumb. Like, I feel like it could hurt him. Could you imagine taking a helmet to the watch and it just like rips your skin off your arm? But I feel like that's not going to hurt someone else. It looked like it was an actual like fitness watch too. Like it looked like it could have been rubberized. So like at that point, like what's the difference? What if you wore a Fitbit out there? It's like the same exact thing. That's what it looked like to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's like titanium steel or adamantium where it's like going to cut every single person it runs into. I don't know. But he's a receiver. He's not a defender. I think it also goes with the position too. Like, because they talked about like when T.O., remember when he signed his football and they were like, oh my God, he had that Sharpie in his sock? Like that could have, what if that would have hit him or hit someone? It's like, calm down, guys. It's a Sharpie. Like, what's the worst? It could explode and he has ink on his leg. And if anything, it would hurt him. Because it's going to hit the helmet. Another guy's helmet will hit the watch or hit whatever else you're wearing, or rip your dog tags off and leave you with a brush burn across your neck. It just doesn't make any sense. If they want to do something dumb like that, let them do it.
But that's the thing right there. It's dumb. Why even do it? Because there's no purpose.
Because it looks cool, Jeff. We already talked about it. It looks cool. It's a cool watch.
It just got that bling, I guess. But Hey, you're playing football. Just go out there, play football.
Well, I have another topic on here. It goes in the NBA. It's kind of the same thing. So I don't know if you guys saw this because we don't talk a lot of NBA on the show. No NBA team in Pittsburgh, but NBA always makes fun of they like throw shade at the NFL, like, oh, the no fun league. Like, yeah, we let players have their free expression, but you can't do that. Can't do this. You can have shoes if they're from one of our sponsors and things like that. So I think was it Jimmy Butler last year? I know he had it in one of the pictures I saw. What they started to do was wearing a ninja headband where they took just like a cloth and just tied it around your forehead like this to the back so it looked like a ninja headband. I thought, okay, that's pretty cool. That's a unique thing. So the NBA put out a press statement now, of all times. You had all summer to do this. You waited until, what, preseason's about to start soon in a few weeks? And they said, hey, you guys can't wear those ninja headbands anymore. And they actually put in the statement, they said, hey, we knew it was an issue last year, but we didn't want to cause disruption in the middle of the season. It was an issue for who?
Yeah.
Who was having the issue? Because it's not like, I could see if it was like a samurai like headgear where it's like full metal that you're wearing out there running into other people, but it's a goddamn headband. Are you going to not let people wear headbands anymore? Like, is it long enough like where it's hitting other people in the face? Are you going to then what? Make them cut their hair? Because like some of those guys, like didn't Akeem Noah have like long dreads at one point? Maybe I'm thinking of someone else, but it wasn't longer than what Jimmy Butler's ninja headband looked like. They saw it. They said, well, a lot of young kids are going to think that's cool. And it looks like he just took a white t-shirt, cut that and made that himself. And we're not going to be able to market that. So nah, you're not going to be able to wear that. That's what it feels like to me. Or they took it to Nike and they're like, hey, we're not going to make that. We're not going to make ninja headbands for you. And the NBA is like, okay, well, that's it then. Like we spent the last couple of months trying to get approved NBA headbands that we could sell to people, and no one wants to make them because you could just make it from a ripped t-shirt. Just take an old t-shirt, cut it into a long line, and tie it around your head like a ninja would wear. That's basically what he did. Matt, you're laughing. Why?
Because I can just see you wearing a friggin' cut-off sleeve around your head.
It's not a sleeve. You have to do it with like the length. You need the length so it looks cool. It hangs down. It's all about looking cool, Matt. You're wearing watches that match your team colors. It's not like he's wearing a neon pink, what I don't even know, like what's something, like a Dora the Explorer watch out there. No, he's doing it to look cool. It's matching his uniform. These guys are wearing ninja headbands because it looks cool the way it flows around. Just like a guy with long hair or a man bun. Let him wear it.
It's like that.
Just like that. Yeah,
just whole story, bro.
They didn't have a problem with compression sleeves or those other ones. I just thought it was funny that they were going to talk about all this player expression and how, hey, don't play youth football, you can get hurt, but come play the NBA, you can be yourself if you're 6'8" or taller. like, come on, they're not going to take you if you're 5'10". Muggsy Bogues isn't coming into the league anymore. So, just crazy. Anything else you guys got on the NFL before we move on to college football?
One thing I noticed, I was watching the Cowboys-Giants game. The Cowboys are going to be in trouble, I think, next year. If Dak Prescott continues to have the season he had in game one, they're going to have to pay him. And they're paying everyone right now. I'm not sure. So I know there's whispers and stuff that the NFL is going to increase the salary cap and all that. I feel like those whispers are every year.
Whispers? But if they're talking about doing a lockout.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware of that.
I'm pretty sure they sent a notice out to players saying, hey, prepare for a lockout. Do not spend your paychecks this year. Am I crazy? Did I just make that up? Like, I feel like I wouldn't make something like that up. I don't think I have dreams about players getting notes from the NFL.
You would definitely make something like that.
Hey,
beautiful mind and just
breaking news: lockout next year.
Yeah, I'm sleeping. I'm like, oh my god, I can't get a good night's sleep. I just can't keep thinking. They keep telling Ben not to spend his paycheck. How's he gonna eat?
Yeah.
I think that's fact though. So if you're listening to this, definitely they warn players about a lockout. So put that in.
I would almost guarantee that they're going to have some kind of discussion or or contract renegotiation, because the owners are gonna want to have some kind of it's getting ridiculous with every player from every team every year that someone signs a new deal and then suddenly they have to hold out, and it's happening more and more with guys that have multiple years left on their deal, but they're saying, well, this person just got paid and now this person got paid, and they're following what the market value is for positions. But then they're saying, well, when I signed my deal and became the highest paid, now I'm not. So now you need to go back and pay me more. And it becomes this pissing contest where the players are getting paid more and more. And I think the owners are going to want to try to nip that, where they can say, once you sign your contract, you need to play on it.
Well, I think I looked this up just so that I wasn't steering people wrong. They did say that, hey, the NFL Players Association put out a notice to players saying that be prepared in 2021, so there would still be one more season next year, for a stoppage of at least 1 year or longer. So they want them to start saving this year and next year because they think it could be the entire season that's gone. And then I did hear a funny thing that I didn't even realize, but someone, I think he was on the Fox pregame, or I don't watch a lot of pregame, so maybe it was a halftime show, but someone said that the two Super Bowls that the Redskins won last were both on lockout seasons because of the way Joe Gibbs paid those replacement players. He paid them to come in and actually compete, and he ran his team where I guess a lot of the other owners were just like, whatever, let's throw in the towel. So whenever his guys came back, he had guys that were ready on the practice field to actually push those guys that were sitting out. And they think that there was a correlation with that, the way Gibbs handled that his team was prepared both times, and it's not a surprise that they actually won both Super Bowls. So I think it was Boomer. Did he say that? I think it was him. I don't know. I don't think he's on Fox though. So maybe it was CBS. Maybe it was the Browns halftime show. So that's crazy. So we'll see, because it's definitely on their minds if they're talking about it on the game on Sunday already. Because 2 years away could be a big thing. But go ahead, Jeff. I know you were talking about something. I completely derailed you.
No, I mean, that was a good point, because I was bringing up contract negotiations, especially with Ezekiel Elliott. He got paid. Amari Cooper's on last year of his deal. So for the Cowboys, you just get a huge contract to Zeke. If you want to keep Cooper and Dak, you're going to pay both of them. They paid a couple of their offensive linemen. They've been paying everyone, what I'm getting at. So unless they're going to up the cap, I don't know how they're going to pay and keep everyone, because Dak Prescott is going to demand top QB money. And like what Matt said, every player every year is resetting that market value. So when you just keep going up and up and up, where's the limit? I forget, there was a stat I heard, one of those teams are paying between like three players, they're paying like 70% of their team's salary cap to like three players. You can't field a team when you do that kind of stuff. So I think the Cowboys are going to be in trouble retaining some of that young talent they have if the cap isn't hired, or Dak Prescott or Cooper, take a hometown discount or whatever we call that. It's kind of interesting. But the other thing I wanted to point on the NFL, last thing, I watched the end then, because I watched that game, and then the bonus coverage was the Cardinals-Lions game. And, man, Kyler Murray played bad in the first half, but guess what? He showed up at the end. My boy Fitz caught the game, the touchdown, and then they got the 2-point conversion afterwards to tie it up there to force overtime. But he looked good in the second half. He did not look like a rookie quarterback, especially when he started the game, 7 for 21 or something like that, with a pick. He started off bad, but he filled into his role. He calmed down, made a lot of good throws. It'll be interesting seeing how he performs the rest of the season. But for the Lions, oh boy, that's bad. You had the Cardinals, which are supposed to be a bad team. You had them dead to rights. Let them back in it. Settle for a tie. But the final point I'll have on that is, I thought the Cardinals, being in that situation, they had, I think it was like a 4th and 5 or 4th and 7 in overtime with 3 minutes left. I think they were on the lines, like 45-yard line, somewhere in that area. And they decided to punt the ball to the Lions and play for the tie rather than going for the win. I feel like that's a bad look. I feel like in that situation, you're the home team. first game of the season. Go for the win. You have a young quarterback. Who knows? Go for it there. Try to get that first down. Try to kick a field goal to win the game. Don't play for the tie. That's my final thing on that game.
I think that they're always going to play for the tie because it benefits you whenever you're in a tie-breaking scenario. I mean, it hurt the Steelers last year, I think, if they would have got the win. But if you're a young team with a brand new coach, you always try to get whatever you want because now he can say, like, hey, we didn't lose yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much bigger than, hey, I have a rookie quarterback. Look what we just did. I just broke him. Like, what if he throws a pick there and a bunch of fans overreact and just start harassing him? Now, instead, people are like, hey, you really turned things around. Hell of a game. They're congratulating him for a tie. I feel like maybe if he was another year or two in the league, I think they would have went for it. But I just think based on the situation, he's just trying to, hey, that was an awful first half. Let's just celebrate our victory. And maybe he trusts his defense to put that away because the Lions still, I mean, the Lions, I know what you're talking about. The Lions made the dumbest play calls there at the end. Yeah, hey, let's just keep throwing deep and not, like, what was your plan of attack there?
Yeah.
Like, they weren't trying to move the ball. They were just throwing a couple, like, Hail Marys from, like, their own 20-yard line or wherever they were. Of course, it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So it was almost like they were just trying to give up. And then they had to, didn't they punt the very last second because they had like 4 seconds left? I can't remember. I don't know if they ran a play and let it run out. I can't remember. But they basically did nothing either. And I think that's more on them. Like, hey, Matt Stafford, how about you try to put together a drive or at least some routes to get your field goal kicker in position? Yeah. Look at what the Saints did. The Saints had the same exact situation, basically. Now, they weren't in overtime. And Drew Brees connected on, 2 or 3 passes? And I think they had a timeout. They called timeout, and then they kicked a hell of a long field goal to win it.
Yeah, 58-yarder.
Now, granted, they were losing at that time, so they had to do that. But, I mean, Lions, you had a huge lead. Let's go out there and at least get a win if you're trying to take – because I don't think the Bears or Packers look that impressive. No. So if you're the Lions, you have a chance to win the division. You don't win the division by starting out like that. So I think it's just a tale of two teams. Cardinals, I'm fine with them going for the tie. Let's go ahead and shift into college football. I had one to kick it off here. So, Matt, I don't know if you saw this because you're always obsessed with Florida and what they're doing down there in Georgeville. But a Florida school, I think it was an elementary school, they had like the first week of August or last week of August, first week of school, they have like college colors days where if you're a kid, you're supposed to wear like your parents or your favorite team's colors in the school. Well, this kid in Florida was a Tennessee fan. Tennessee Volunteers wears like a bright orange. And he said that they didn't have any official Tennessee gear. I don't know if they couldn't afford it or what. But he decided to take an orange shirt that he did have, and he made his own Tennessee Volunteer shirt. And to make his own, he just took a piece of paper and drew a big U and a big T on it, and then taped it to his shirt. So, of course, he wears it to school like that, and some girls made fun of him. So he was all depressed, and the teacher, of course, went on Facebook because she needed that attention, right? So she goes on Facebook and she posts about how her kid was bullied and how bullies aren't cool. And so the University of Tennessee sends this kid, a whole box full of Tennessee gear, hats, banners, T-shirts, jerseys, which was a pretty cool gesture by them. Yeah. And then they actually took I would hope they licensed it to give him some money. They made a T-shirt. I know they said they're giving some to charity, but still not a good look, Tennessee. If you take this kid's money, and you're just like, what, you're making money off that design that he sent to you because they own it, kind of like, what are they going to trademark rule that? So there's a silver lining here.
They're using their 5-star hearts.
Yeah, they're 5-star hearts, Matt. So they took his design that he drew on that piece of paper, and now they sell a T-shirt with it. You can see it. I put it on our Twitter before the show.
And they gave him some real Tennessee gear. It was a barter
for that design. And now, how many people are going to read that story? No connection to Tennessee, and they're going to buy that T-shirt.
Yep.
Because you're stopping bullying, and the bullies know not to bully.
But the thing that stuck out to me was the principal then said, "Oh, I don't classify that as bullying. Girls were just teasing." So the principal didn't even think it was bullying, which I thought was an outrageous statement. Because what's the difference between teasing and bullying? It's the same thing, right, Matt? You're always hounding on me about that. Too much trash talk, right?
Yes. And there is a fine line, because with bullying, there is the intent of being mean. Where teasing, it may be joking between friends.
Malicious intent.
Bullying crosses the line.
I don't know.
Where you go all the time.
I don't cross the line.
You're a habitual line stepper.
All right, I got one for you, Matt. This is a mailbag, and then you're going to tell me I crossed the line anyway. Okay, so we're watching college football this year. Florida State, Michigan, they have a great start to the season, right? So our mailbag question is, what is the worst offensive philosophy? Michigan's speed and space or Florida State's lethal simplicity? So you're the coach. What do you think is the better offense? I know you watched the Michigan game on Saturday, and I know you watched a Florida State game.
Well, let me tell you, it was really nice to be able to watch two outdated offenses from the 1900s, where both teams didn't complete a pass. It was kind of nice watching that Army-Michigan game. Actually, when you look at the nuts and bolts of Florida State's lethal simplicity, they've actually made tremendous gains. Now, if you want to see the worst thing in the entire universe, watch the defense for Florida State, because that's where they're completely just awful. And it's costing them. It almost cost me my college football season, because I'd messaged you that if ULM, and no offense to the Warhawks, but you shouldn't be competing with Florida State. And I messaged you and said, if they win this game, I'm done. I think at that point you're not allowed to watch college football anymore. You're done for the year. And I thought, well, week 2, I'm going to be done watching college football now.
Well, I'll be honest. When you text me that, I had already turned the game off, because wasn't Florida State up by like 20 points or something like that? They had a big lead.
Well, once again, third quarter, I had to go back and rewatch what was going on, because I went to put my kids to bed. I was like, all right, well, we're in good shape. I'll come back down, catch the garbage time, and bath kids, put them to bed, do all the other stuff. Come downstairs, I'm like, you got to be kidding me! And then I almost woke everyone up in the house, because I started swearing and saying we're going to blow this game to ULM. And honestly, I don't know at that point why they played it conservatively in overtime, because I think if they go for 2, there's no way that Florida State stops them, because they're running a 3-4. I think they're calling it a not 3-4. What they should be calling it is not defense, because they're not tackling anyone. They're not holding anyone in coverage. It's just Swiss cheese. Everyone just gets to run wherever they want to run all the time. And I'd rather just see them play all freshmen and sophomores and stay in their 4-man front, because the defensive line is a strength and their secondary is a strength. Go into a nickel and don't hang guys out to dry.
Well, I'll say I turned the game off and I put on what was the other afternoon game? It was like, was it Texas LSU?
A&M.
Oh, it was Clemson A&M, which was also a blowout. So then I was just like, you know what? I'll watch that. And there might have been one other game on, because I have my dual TV set up. I forget what other 2 game I had on. Then you text me, and I thought, there's no way Florida State's blowing this. And I see that they're in overtime, and I couldn't get the game up in time. But like you said, the play before that they scored the touchdown in overtime to go for the kick to tie it, wide open. Just run that again. It was the same thing. I watched the Army-Michigan game, and I've tried to analyze it, and it comes down to 2 things. First off, the excuses that leaked out of Michigan's camp just don't add up to me, because they keep saying that Shea Patterson is hurt. And I think it comes down to that's the issue, because there were 2 things that stood out for people, because I thought, okay, I'm going to, for the Big Ten take on our show, the big game was going to be Ohio State, Cincinnati, and Michigan Army. I knew both were going to be close. I told people, bet on Army to cover last week when the line was 20-something, because I said it's going to be tough for Michigan to score. Well, there were 2 turning points in the game. The first one that I'll never understand, because I complain about it all the time, the refs on the field, there was a fumble from Army, Michigan's defender was on the ground. He stood up, recovered the fumble, and ran it into the end zone. A clear touchdown. But for whatever reason, I didn't hear the whistle on the field, they said that he wasn't able to advance it because of reasons. They never really said. Like, I don't know. I didn't hear them blow the whistle, and it didn't sound like there was a whistle on the replay. So it should have been a Michigan touchdown. Of course, no. They wiped that one off the board, and the very next play, Shea Patterson fumbles again, which is Michigan's Achilles heel right now. They've had, 7 or 8 fumbles in the first 2 games? And so Michigan leaks out that Shea Patterson's been playing hurt. Then don't play him. Like, you're getting paid millions of dollars to be the head coach. Why are you playing him if he's fumbling at 3 every time he carries the ball? It makes 0 sense. He had 2 fumbles in that game. The second one was right after Michigan had the lead. It would have been 14-7. They would have been kicking off the Army. I don't think Michigan would have ever lost a game, or I don't think it would have been close after that. That fumble gave Army life. And then the very same thing. So the refs give Army life. Army gives Michigan life because Army's driving down. They're up 14-7, I think, at this point. Going in to score, all they have to do is settle for a field goal. And after the fumble, the second fumble, that one I just mentioned, Michigan went into a shell. At that point, the offense was all right. It's going to take time against Army because they eat so much of the clock. Army decides to pass and throws an interception on, in the red zone, basically. Like, why are you passing? What are you doing? Did you not just drive down the field? So I texted you guys and said, Army should have won this in regulation. I don't know what the hell their coach is doing. Just run the ball. You have the lead. You keep pressuring Michigan. You know they're not running it. And that's my issue. If Shea Patterson's hurt, he's never running the ball. They keep doing the zone read, which eventually just becomes a delayed handoff because he's never going to pull it and run it. In the postgame, Harbaugh said, hey, they weren't open. They were the correct read every time. Come on. Every time, you mean when it's 4th and 2 and you're getting stopped in the backfield for a 4-yard loss? That was the correct time to hand off to the running back? Come on, bro. Don't be a joke. So I watched the breakdown from some of the Michigan blog sites. There were at least 12 times where the quarterback should have pulled and ran to the outside because the defensive end was just crashing on the running back every time. So I don't know if that's on the new offensive coordinator. I don't know if it's because Harbaugh's telling him, hey, if you're hurt, don't run. At this point, I don't know. I feel like, you know what it reminds me of, Matt? It reminds me of Iowa. What year was that? 2008. We saw them play at Pitt, where they had Jake Christensen at quarterback and their backup, Ricky Stanzi. And we were at the game. Pitt took a lead. Christensen out there, the highly rated recruit, inaccurate, turnover prone. It reminds me of Shea Patterson. And at some point, you have to say, okay, I know this guy has high upside, but if you're turning the ball over and you're not making accurate throws, you got to get rid of him. You keep doing this 2 quarterback thing they're doing with Dylan McCaffrey now. It reminds me very similar to what Iowa did with Ricky Stanzi. Stanzi would come in, move the ball. Very next series, they'd take him out and put the other guy in. There was a play where Dylan McCaffrey moved the ball, and then the next play they put Shea Patterson in for another delayed handoff, and they lost 5 yards. I was like, what the hell? And even the announcer said, there's no way you can keep a rhythm. I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. So those are my thoughts on the thing. Florida State, I feel like they just need, I don't think it's a new system. The new system talk that Michigan's throwing out there is bullshit. Because how is LSU throwing out their system and then having an awesome offense? At some point, you have to make that next step. Same with Florida State. Okay, yeah, they might have struggled to score against ULM, but like Matt said, if the defense is struggling, your offense is going to get less touches, and it's going to be harder to get into a rhythm. You're not going to put up a complete beatdown. So those are my thoughts on that. My other Big Ten one was Penn State. Tied with Buffalo, or they were losing to Buffalo at halftime. And I know we talked about this a little bit on top of the show. I don't know, what Pitt probably has a chance against Penn State. I think they're trying to shove in their offense based on what they did with Saquon Barkley and McSorley. And I think that's where Pitt can really take it to them. Buffalo played more of a contained zone. Let's keep it close. And in the second half, they just didn't have the athletes, where I think Pitt has the athletes to keep it within striking distance. So those are my Big 10 takeaways. We'll go around the horn. Maybe I'll get some more. I got to get back into my notes. But Jeff, what do you got for college football on Saturday?
I watched the end of the Michigan Army game, and every second of that overtime, I was just thinking about my Michigan and Ohio State tickets being worthless.
I told you.
I do that. Oh man, it's rough. I had such high expectations going into the season, but that game was bad. With Shea Patterson, I think he made a lot of good points with him. My biggest question is, if he truly isn't healthy, why play him? They played two opponents they should have beat on paper. It's not like, they played the entire season in the Big Ten championships coming down to Michigan, Ohio State. Yeah, if that's the scenario, guess what? You play Shea Patterson if he's your best quarterback, even if he's hurt. But guess what? You don't play him if he's hurt against Army. You don't get anything out of it. You don't benefit from it. All you can do is risk further injury. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't think he looks very good overall. I know in overtime he missed that touchdown pass. He overthrew him. Just speaking to his inaccuracy that you mentioned earlier, it was rough as a Michigan fan. They could have easily lost that game. And if I'm the Army head coach, I don't do the play action pass in overtime. I run that ball every single play and say, hey, Michigan, do you want to beat us? Go ahead. Stop us. We're running the ball every damn time. You got to man up and beat us. And if Army does that, I think they pull the game off. I think they have enough there and they win in overtime if they run the ball every single play. Because Michigan's D, I don't know, there's times in overtime I just didn't see heart. I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't know your guys' opinion on that, but I just didn't see the drive or the heart there in overtime.
Oh, it was clear that the defense was wearing down.
Yeah.
They were tired, and I thought the second offensive series, the first one on offense in overtime for Michigan was great. They spread the ball out and did that. The second drive, they did 3 drop back passes deep, and Shea just hasn't been accurate. So why are you doing that if he can't throw the ball? Is he hurt? They said it's an oblique, so it's affecting his throwing motion. You can't tell me that Dylan McCaffrey is such a bad quarterback that he's not going to be good, because I saw the same thing last year at the first game of the year against Notre Dame. Shea Patterson was in the game. Guess what he was doing? Fumbling, turning the ball over, inaccurate. Michigan couldn't score. Guess what? He got hurt. Dylan McCaffrey drove Michigan down for a touchdown like it was nothing. So I honestly think this is on, and I looked it up. So 2008, because this was the year that Iowa went to, they played at Pitt because we were at Heinz Field for it. It was the 4th game of the year. Iowa ended up losing 3 games in a row, starting with that Pitt game. Then they bounced back, lost at Illinois, and it came down. In the big game that year, they ended up 9-4. They upset Penn State, which was number 3 in the country at that time, and was in the mix for a national championship, 2008. Because guess what? By that late in the year, their season was already ruined because they were doing the 2 quarterback thing. They started the season 3-3. They won 2, lost at Illinois, and then they said, you know what? Stanzi's our guy. We're going to play him. They pulled off the gigantic upset. He carried that in. So that season was already lost. So they get into the 2009 season, which was the one that a lot of Iowa fans remember. They end up going with Stanzi 11-2 and finishing the season number 7 in the country. And I feel like that's what's going to happen here. They're going to mess around with Shea Patterson. He's never going to fully be healthy, or whatever the reason is. Michigan's going to get killed by Penn State, maybe Wisconsin, probably lose to Michigan State. I feel like they figure it out. Shea gets benched. McCaffrey comes in, beats Ohio State. And then people were like, what the hell? Like, what is this?
What do you do?
Yeah, what is this? You finally beat Ohio State. Like, I feel like that's my parallel right now. I don't know if it's going to happen. But it reminds me of that 2008 season from Iowa. You have the top recruit at quarterback that came in, and I don't know if it's just an obligation to him because he transferred or what they're doing. Like, if you're not accurate, you're not going to play in the NFL. I mean, the best quarterback that Harbaugh's had at Michigan was Jake Rudolph the first year, and I think he just got cut by the Lions. And his main thing was he was accurate. He could read the ball. He's had some bigger arms here since. Brandon Peters is now at Illinois. So let's see what he does. The other big thing, too, Maryland's offense. Maryland was supposed to hire Josh Gaddis, and Harbaugh stepped in and hired him away before he could move there from Alabama. And Maryland's offense has looked great. I know ACC, Syracuse was supposed to be a team. I told you guys they're fake. Maryland killed them. And that's the same game that I think we're going to look back, and Maryland will end the season with 4 losses, unranked, and watch Syracuse sneak back into the AP pool, which is going to be a joke because they're going to need someone for Clemson to play. I mean, Miami, what happened to them? Complete garbage. Mac Brown is now one of 2 undefeated teams in the Coastal. Them and Virginia.
Yeah.
And Virginia's on upset alert. Going into Florida State this week.
Might as well put that W in the win column for Virginia already.
No, because it's a team that they should get blown out to, so they'll step up and play appropriately this week.
So Matt,
I
joked
feel
about
that
it
a lot as a Pitt fan.
Do you think Florida State has to have some big wins to keep Willie Taggart his job, or do you think he's going to get fired no matter what?
Well, I think he's definitely on the hot seat at this point. I think it's unjustifiable though, because when you look at what he's doing offensively, like for as many issues as they've had, and we've talked about them, the offense is turning around. They scored 45 points and almost lost. That's not on Kendall Browse, and that's not it. The defense has to get better. Is the bottom line. And when you look at like the woes that Michigan has, the reason that they're not in the same dumpster that Florida State is right now is because, in my opinion, one of the best defensive minds, if not the best defensive mind, is at Michigan right now. And Don Brown, everywhere he's been a winner. And I think he's single-handedly keeping some of the most god-awful offenses that we've seen, keeping Michigan in games.
Oh, yeah. That's 100%. Because he ran that stunt, the play before the sack with the fumble. It was like, second down to set up the long third down. He ran a stunt with their defensive lineman across the middle that ended up having him unblocked. And he hit the fullback or the quarterback in the backfield that gave them a 3rd and long. So, like, he had that queued up. I think it was Hutchinson that made the play. And I thought, okay, that's a big-time play right there. Because without that, Army they might not have to pass. But even like Jeff said, I still thought that they should have just stuck to their guns and ran it. Even on 4th down, just run it twice. Run your big play, the short side option, almost like the speed option that they pulled out. Because both times they pulled that out, Michigan wasn't able to stop them from getting 6 yards. They just didn't run it as frequently. So
now, I'm going to say this as well. You were talking about the hot seat. When you look at like Florida State's loss to Boise State, they played Marshall this week and shut them down to like 20 yards of offense in the second half. Like it was something super insane.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So Boise is a better team than you think. No one's talking about that, and no one is really saying anything about Nebraska losing to Colorado. They were 25.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was going to talk about that.
They lost to unranked Colorado, and the thing of it is, no one's saying, is Scott Frost on the hot seat at Nebraska?
That was the same thing with the Lions, Matt. Nebraska was up, 17-0 at one point? Where is your offense? They made fun, because that was the one thing, too, and I could tie this into the Michigan game. They keep talking about how, okay, well, if you're at Michigan, now you're in the spread, you can't take the ball from under center. Yes, you can. Why do you have to be in the snap? That's what they kept saying with Nebraska. Well, it's tough for them to eat clock because they run this Scott Frost spread. And then I turn on the Oklahoma game, and who's taking a snap under center? Jalen Hurts. And it's like, but I thought Oklahoma's running the same spread. How come their quarterback is versatile enough to, because like in the pros, like what do they think these guys are going to go to the pros and they're going to say, hey, get under center and run a snap. They're going to say, whoa, we don't do that here. Because it's the same thing. Michigan has like 3 scholarship fullbacks, but it's like, oh, we can't use them at all. Why can't you run 2-back shotgun? They had that goddamn formation in Madden 99. People have 2 running backs in the backfield and shotgun. You can run the delayed handoff with the fullback if you wanted to. Like
pro gun, baby.
Yeah, you can't
Florida
be like
running it in 93.
Yeah, we don't know what we're doing back here. We don't know. So I'm like, it's driving me nuts because you hear that with Scott Frost. It's like, well, his philosophy is if he's running the spread, sometimes it's tough for them to milk the clock. Like, no, it's not. No, it is not. They go into a shell and teams can shut down their spread because because eventually what happens, it's like they run all their plays the first half. They get their big lead. The defenses make their adjustments. So it's on the coach. Is he going to make the final adjustments? He never does. And so the commentators don't know how to put that into words, and they say, well, I guess in his system, it's tough for him to run out the clock. Like, no, the defense made the adjustments, shut his offense down. He had no answers. Meanwhile, Colorado is playing their hearts out there, and they're going to get the win. They treated it like a rivalry game, and they frankly embarrassed the Big Ten because now what if Nebraska does win? It's kind of like the situation last year with Nebraska or with Northwestern losing to all those teams, and then they win the West. It's like same as if Syracuse were to run the table now and win the Coastal. Or no, they're in the same division as Clemson.
They're in the Atlantic. So it's Virginia and it's UNC on the Coastal
side. So they lucked out because there's no way Syracuse is beating Clemson. So, yeah. Yeah, I looked at that Coastal division right now. That's going to be it. I'm trying to look and see when they play each other, Virginia and North Carolina, November 2nd. And it is at UNC. I think I have something going on that day. I wonder what time that game's going to end up being, because that could be for the division. I mean, of course, UNC ends their schedule with an at Pittsburgh and then at home or at NC State, which they could choke in both those. But Mac Brown, all he has to do is play consistent football, sound football, and get to the championship game. Taylor Lawrence looks like he's pushing. And that's another thing that I noticed with these offenses like Nebraska and them. Why aren't you taking shots down the field? Like Colorado's guys throwing it up in double coverage, whatever, and their guys making a catch. It's like Nebraska can't do the same thing. And then I watched Trevor Lawrence, his guy's clearly covered. He makes an awful air ball throw, and his receivers are just so big that they just kind of just come down with the ball while they're getting manhandled by the defense. It's like, okay, I guess if you have beasts at wide receiver, you're just a great quarterback if you just throw into coverage. Because I feel like once he plays...
Rod Rutherford.
Yeah, basically Rod Rutherford. That's what it reminded me of. That worked for Pitt. Jeff, why you laughing?
Yeah, because that was what they did. It's like, hey, we got Fitzgerald. Let's just throw it up. Doesn't matter how bad the pass is. He's coming down with it.
Didn't Rutherford play in the NFL, though?
A long time ago. I don't know.
You should have on hand a list of every Pitt quarterback that's played in the NFL, because that's a big talking point you can use against Penn State fans. Are you not going to the game on Saturday?
Yeah, I am. I'll be there. Yeah, Pitt's had some pretty bad ones in the NFL, though, recently. I mean, my boy Nate Peterson.
I thought you were going to say Dan Marino and all his Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah. Yikes. That one hurts. Hey, got that national championship, though, in college.
I know. I've seen Pitt's 9 national championships.
I will say one of their 9.
All before I was born. Matt likes to say that line. That's it. That's all I have for college football. We'll go around the horn for fun and Bill. Anything else you guys want to hit? Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I just want to touch base, and I know we've kind of gotten away from baseball, but the Cardinals running away with the NL Central, got 4 games up. Looks like they could be closing that out. And unfortunately, our friends, the Detroit Tigers, hit triple digits in the loss column. So come on, guys.
And it looks like they're going to end with the worst record. I think we had that as a topic where is Pittsburgh going to end in last in the NL? And I think I can't remember what we said, but it looks like they might not. But Detroit is definitely going to have the worst record in the AL and Major League Baseball for sure. So battle around. Jeff, you got anything else for us?
The only thing I got is after this weekend, I'm a little more concerned with the AFC North. Steelers obviously dropped in 1, played horrible against the Patriots. The Bengals surprised me at Seattle. Almost pulled out a victory there. So I don't think the Bengals will be very good this year, but that's interesting. You know, week 1, they played the Seahawks so closely. The Browns, I think, will get better. They obviously got destroyed by the Titans, but they have a lot of talent. I think they'll be okay. And then the Ravens, I do not like seeing the Ravens play well. Now, they might have played the worst team in football right now, the Miami Dolphins, so I'm not completely sold on Lamar Jackson's 5 touchdown passes, but the AFC North, I think it's going to be an interesting division this year.
Well, I'll say I don't think the Browns got killed as bad as you would think because I watched the game. It came down to Mayfield's interceptions. I think he started to push the ball because the Browns, I think they had a lead for a while, I believe. And then 3 turnovers. He had 3 interceptions. So once he did that, he got behind the ball, and then Titans got the lead, and it was over. Like, he doesn't know how to put it together and just consistently move the ball. And I think that's where he's going to learn. And just based on what I saw, he's a gamer. He didn't give up. And he didn't really panic and make, like, he wasn't so much poor reads, I'll say. So I'm not really concerned about the Browns because they are the Browns. But I feel like in a year or two, that if things start to click for Baker Mayfield, he's different than the other quarterbacks have had, at least on early looks. So we'll see. But yeah, the Ravens, hopefully John Harbaugh can hit up Jim and tell him, like, hey, how do you have a quarterback that can run? Because I'm afraid to have ours run. Because I think that would open up the whole Michigan offense if they brought that actual element in where your quarterback can run, or just get rid of that play completely. You can't run it 10 times, 12 times in a game. Actually, more than that, if I think they graded it and said they had 12 where he could have pulled, that means they ran that stupid play over 12 times against Army. You only have how many plays against Army? So we'll see. It's a bye week, so maybe they'll get it figured out for Wisconsin.
They'll say they play Wisconsin next.
Yeah, what's the big game for this week? We'll do our picks before we end the show. Let me bring it up. Steelers, who do they got? They have the Seahawks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Home versus Seahawks.
So we'll start with you, Jeff. What do you think of that one while I get up the college football one?
Well, I got embarrassed with my pick last week. I thought the Steelers really pulled off against the Patriots, but I'm going to give the Steelers at home. I think they get back on track. They get back to 1-1, 500. Especially, I feel a lot better since the Bengals played the Seahawks so closely week 1. Now, anytime Russell Wilson is your quarterback, though, you have a chance to win it, but I'm going to take Steelers at home.
Matt, what's your take? You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
What do you got on that one?
I have a hard time picking Seattle in this one just because I feel like their offense has been so horrific over the last couple of years, even with Russell Wilson at quarterback. Just feels like they have a hard time moving the ball. I think this week plays more into Pittsburgh's advantage, and I think they're going to win.
I think the Seahawks are going to take it. And I'll start doing that until Steelers get some more consistency on offense. I don't think it's a deal breaker for the season, but I think that it's going to be enough where, yeah, they're at home, but show me. I hope I'm wrong. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll do a quick speed round here because this is the week where there is like basically no big games. I think game day is going to Iowa State. Which should be a big toss-up. So we'll hit that one first. Matt, who do you got in that one?
I'll go with Iowa State. Popular pick.
Jeff, who do you got?
I'll take Iowa.
I got Iowa too, because I'll tell you, Iowa State almost lost to Northern Iowa. Then they had a bye week. They're not going to be up to the same game speed. I think that's where you struggled the first week, then you get into a bye before you play your rival. Not a good look. I know they're supposed to be big, so it feels like every time they're going to have a great season, they lose to Iowa. Next one, we'll do Florida State and Virginia. Matt, what do you got for this one?
I got to pick with my heart, and I'm going Noles.
Jeff, what do you got?
Give Virginia by 2 touchdowns.
I think Virginia paced them, and I think the Willie Taggart talks explode. And I think it turns into a media circus.
Well, if it does go sideways, if I could do my fantasy pick, Briles steps in as the interim head coach. Pruitt gets fired at Tennessee. We bring Pruitt home, and then we win another national championship.
Yeah, because I've really seen Tennessee shut down Georgia State. And who did they lose to last week?
That's because he's head coach. Defensive coordinator. He's got natties at Alabama and Florida State. Come home. Come home, Jeremy.
All right, we'll do the last one. Pitt, Penn State. Jeff, I think you already gave your pick, right? You said Penn State.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you got?
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll be 0 for this weekend. I'll go with Pitt. I think that they play up for this week. There's just like when they play Clemson, when they play someone with a pulse. Miami was vying for a playoff spot a couple years ago. They play up for a game like this, and I think if it's decent outside and they don't get themselves stuck in some bad field position spots, Pitt can be competitive in this one, especially with Wrench.
I'll say I think I talked about it earlier, but I think Penn State's going to win. I think Pitt will make it close, but in the end, the talent's going to win out. And Penn State's close where right now their recruiting's been doing well enough with James Franklin off their Big Ten championship season that they have to start to capitalize or it's going to start to fall off. So we'll see. I think they need this big win. If Pitt were to upset them, I think that could create havoc for their season. And Pitt's in a similar situation. Like, where is Narduzzi? What's his trend line? It's going down. You got to get a big win. Maybe he plays up enough. I just don't think they have enough. I think it's like was it 2 years ago where they were close and then Penn State pulled away late. Kind of like the Buffalo game. But that's it for the show. Go to southboundsports.com. Make sure you tell your friends. We're still going during football season. You can click on our website. We have an Amazon link. You can shop through there if you want to help support the show. No cost to you. And you can also get some of our social media stuff. I've been working on getting all that up to date and adding some extra stuff onto the site. Just a little disappointing week 1 for the Steelers to get some of that rocking, but we'll be hitting it back. So make sure you check it out and subscribe to the show and tell your friends. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.